So before I ask you any questions, you need to understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions, and to have him or her with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish.
A detective reads Trequel Van Merco his rights, arrested for his alleged involvement in an armed home robbery in 2018.
You have information but no proof. I was not there.
When Trequel declined to answer questions, the investigator pushed back.
I'm not some little punk that you deal with on the street. Are we clear? Are we clear? So take a step back and a deep breath and calm down.
The 18-year-old, who had never been in serious trouble in the past, faced up to 65 years in prison.
And you could be here for a long time.
Trequel couldn't afford an attorney or the $25,000 bail, so he sat in jail in Wood County, Wisconsin, and waited for his court-appointed attorney. His mom and sister say Trequel called the state's public defender office every day, asking for a lawyer.
And he's like, Mom, they literally laughed at me on the phone, like, yeah, right, you're waiting for a lawyer. You know, like there's a lot of other people too.
Trequel's fellow inmates witnessed him struggle too.
Like he was calling for weeks to get a public defender. They kept saying, oh, we don't have one, we don't have one yet.
On the Davis court hearing, Trequel walked into court alone. According to court transcripts, the judge told him you do have a right to ask questions of the officer, although if you had an attorney here, they would tell you not to do so. At the end of the 30-minute hearing, the judge decided there was enough evidence to charge the teen. When Trequel tried to protest the ruling, citing no representation, the judge told him that will be something you can discuss with your attorney.
So not only you have this young teen that has never been in serious troubles trying to navigate the system, but he's alone. He has no guidance from anybody.
Later that night in jail, Trequel took a shower, went to church, tied a blanket around his cell door and neck, and let go.
Camry, this is Lee at the Wood County Jail. We need an ambulance as soon as possible.
He has the pulse, but we need an ambulance here.
I remember laying in my bed and I heard her yell up the stairs. All of a sudden I just hear, Trey hung himself, Trey hung himself. So.
What do you think drove him to do what he did?
I think the detectives and the not having a public defender.
Do you think he would have taken his own life if he had a public defender that day?
No. I just think it would have given him hope. He would have had a voice. He would have been able to say, you know, this is what happened. You know, he would have been able to have somebody there to guide him through the system, you know, and it's like everybody makes mistakes, but when you're in a situation like that, it's your right to have that representation there, and it was essentially taken away from him.
Wisconsin's public defender office says agency staff made approximately 300 calls and emails. The private attorneys certified to take state public defender cases, but did not find the teen a lawyer in time for his court date. The state suffered from a public defender shortage when Trequel needed one. 4 years later, today, it's worse than ever.
We have a shortage of attorneys in central and northern Wisconsin.
There is a constitutional crisis because of delays linked to a lack of public defenders.
That's the challenge in virtually every city in our state.
A fundamental right to an attorney falling apart across the country. In Oregon, the state has 1/3 of the public defenders it needs, according to the American Bar Association. In New Mexico, it needs 67% more lawyers to adequately represent defendants. And in Atlanta, Georgia...
Good morning, Mr. Robinson. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good.
It's easy to spot the problem nearly every day in Fulton County Court. People charged with crimes, waiting for a court-appointed attorney.
How long that gonna be?
If I had an answer, I'd give it to you. We are working through an unacceptable crisis, and you're not the only one.
In Fulton County alone, court records show 113 people indicted for crimes did not have an attorney this past August, many in jail for months, 29 of them longer than a year, nearly all of them black, including Demario Phillips.
How are you today?
Good.
The 19-year-old charged with murder sat in jail 11 months and did not have a lawyer for this court hearing. He says he's innocent. DeMario's parents asked the judge for help.
We're trying, we can't afford an attorney.
Right.
Prices are like so high.
I want to be real clear. The expectation is not, why don't you go get a lawyer? That's not required. If you cannot afford one for your son, the state of Georgia has an obligation to get a lawyer for your son. And the state of Georgia is not living up to its obligation right now.
Frida and DeMario Sr. are the teen's parents.
What was your reaction when he said that?
I was shocked. We keep doing the same dance. We go to these status hearings knowing that they haven't found him a lawyer yet.
That problem needs to be fixed soon. And if it's not, I think you're going to start reading about it in the newspapers with lawsuits, and that may be what it takes.
Robert McBurney is the Fulton County Superior Court judge behind the camera.
What we have right now is akin to the scenarios that we decry when we say, well, look at the criminal justice system in China or Iran, where people can get scooped up and held without charges or without it being made clear what's going on, and most importantly, no due process. They're stuck, they're silenced, and they don't have a next court date other than to come back and see the judge who says, this is a travesty.
How does this impact crime victims?
No closure. You may want your day in court, you may have a sense of vengeance, you may just want to know that the person who did this is being put away somewhere safe so that it doesn't happen to the next person. When you call the district attorney's office to say what's going on with my case, the answer is nothing, because there's no lawyer for the defendant.
There is growing concern the right to an attorney at the state level could be overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. In 2019, Justices Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch wrote an opinion alluding they disagree with the landmark ruling, writing, "The Sixth Amendment does not guarantee access to an attorney with any level of reliability or a reliable result."
It should bring chills to all of us when we realize that any of us can be accused of a crime.
John Rapping is president of Gideon's Promise, a national public defender advocacy organization.
Undoubtedly, there are people sitting in jail accused of crimes who are innocent. We can't possibly know that until they get a lawyer who can gather information and shine light on what actually happened. So having a lawyer early is the only way we can feel confident that people that are incarcerated actually committed the crimes that they're accused of committing.
A failure in the criminal justice system impacting the poor, including Traquel Van Marco.
I mean, my brother, he was never in serious trouble. We never expected this to happen to him. It shouldn't have happened to him. He shouldn't have been put in a situation where he lost hope and he felt his only way out was to take his life. He was 18. He had so much more life to live.